Man, it's great to meet you. I'm really interested in getting into all of the different things that you do for clients and your mission and who you are. So thank you for taking a minute out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
You bet. So to begin our journey, I know we're all getting tired of talking about COVID, but it was such a moment for all of us to survive the pandemic. It affected so many things. Ultimately, how did you make it through that time period, and how has it influenced the way that you live now?
So, at when COVID started, I actually worked for Servpro Industries at the time as a consultant, and then also as a business insight side. So I kind of went between operations and what was going on the data side of things. And it was interesting because we all just kind of got a text message that said, "Hey, stay at home tomorrow. There's going to be more information coming." And working for a company that does response to disasters and that sort of thing, we thought something was coming just because of what we were hearing and things that we were getting called for, but nothing like the shutdown like we thought it would be. And being in an industry that's in a lot of people's homes and businesses, it was like, okay, we're going to figure out a way. You're going to work from home. We haven't figured out exactly how that's going to work yet. And so I think one of the things that it drove for all of us that suddenly moved into that world where we're used to being, in an office, you got face-to-face meetings, you're meeting people a lot, is suddenly you're by yourself and there's a lot of alone time.
Yeah.
But you still have life going on. So those connections and how you connect, even through this that we're going through, right now virtually, that skill set became one that you really had to dive into.
Yeah.
And then as you had new team members come on board and people leave, how do you develop those relationships through a screen?
Yeah.
And I think all of us have perhaps gotten better at doing that. But I've also seen since the end of that, my son is in school and then suddenly he's not in school, and he was in middle school at the time, just starting, and his desire for a personal connection to somebody, I think was amplified during that time. So while we hear a lot about people are talking through social media and they're doing things through there, I think there's a deeper desire as well to get to know people.
Yeah.
It's a lot closer, but the people that you're close to, I think we're a lot closer to them than we were before. But being able to develop these relationships and add value to people, through a screen, from a distance, through a phone, I think we all developed suddenly a new way of doing not just business, but a new way of doing friendship and a new way of developing those relationships.
It truly did kind of shrink the world. We always talk about how connected we are and how the borders kind of melted away with technology, but it was really evident. But it just like you said, there was this deeper desire to have human connection. It's fine for us to be behind screens here, but when we could have the chance to actually meet people in person, I think that just intensified over that time.
And for me, I developed a whole new skill set because I was used to going to somebody's business, spending a day with them, hearing conversations that they had, hearing conversations that happened in their office that people didn't realize I was listening to just because I was sitting in a waiting room waiting for something else to happen. And then suddenly I have people that I need to help that are looking for assistance, and I can't get on a plane and travel there.
Yeah,
And even if I drive, there's nobody at their office,
yeah.
so learning, really how to help somebody that's in that situation as well was again a skill that I didn't have. And I think it's helped me today to be much more effective in what are the questions that I ask. And in questioning, you realize what they're seeing themselves and what they're not, and how to get to the root cause of what that is. That was again something that I'd never experienced because I've always been I wasn't a phone guy. Some people are, they'll pick up the phone, they're kind of that phone sales type mentality. They can develop that relationship, they can get into your mind, and for me it was always face to face. I want to see body language, I want to see what's going on around you. And so it helped me, I think, become a better coach, a better consultant, because I could do that from a distance.
So let's get to the heart and soul, the root of what you do on a daily basis here in 2024. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day. One of the kids is curious and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
So I help business owners who are maybe successful but still struggling inside get to where they really want to go. So for me, in my situation, I was a business owner years ago that reached a breaking point. And from the outside, everything looked great. But on the inside, yeah, I wasn't living the dream. I was really, physically experiencing nightmares every night about what was going on. But I had this story that I was showing to everybody else and the story that they believed. But what was inside was totally different. And I've met so many people that from the external, they're successful. And on the inside, they're depressed, they're upset, they're not where they thought they would be or anywhere close to what they wanted to be. And that's kind of what I help people now is kind of transition from that where they are point A to where they want to be point B with some of the things that I've discovered, in myself and then also in working with a lot of other business owners.
So let's take you back to point A when you were in the third grade. What was your dream? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Um, I wanted to be a surgeon.
Okay.
Of all the crazy things, I think I'd watched a lot of medical shows when I was a kid, and my mom worked for the American Heart Association, so I got to meet a lot of the pioneers of heart surgery and open heart surgery.
Wow.
Dr. Jarvik that invented the Jarvik heart.
Yeah.
I played ping pong with him with a set of Jarvik hearts because a ping pong ball would fit right in one of those artery things, and he had developed a button, and we played ping pong with one of those at
Wow.
the American Heart Office in Memphis, Tennessee, when I was growing up. So I
Wow.
think types of experiences made me see surgery and surgeons in a little bit different atmosphere than maybe what most people do. But that's what I was looking forward to. Unfortunately, I inherited a hand problem that most of the men in the Moore family have, which is our hands start shaking, and some of that as we get later. So surgery was definitely not
Yeah.
what I was going to go into.
Yeah, that wouldn't work. So talk to me a little bit about how you evolved into where you are today. What were the foundational seeds and elements planted into you in your younger years that evolved into the professional you are today?
I think it was really my dad. My dad was always involved in business from a management type standpoint, and and I saw the impact that he was able to have on people's lives, not just on the business. Now he was not extremely well educated, except for what he taught himself. So he had to leave high school early because he worked on a farm. He was the youngest of 11 kids, and so everything that he earned, everything that he was able to do in his life, he did it in and of himself. And so there was a thing about that too. Being a self-made man, he was truly it. And I think, getting into business, being able to lead, to help others. I saw people that he worked with that worked for him that he almost, really became a dad like figure to them. He had, before there was a lot of talk about mentorship and mentors, he was that for a lot of people at different levels. And so I saw not just his success in turning around businesses and leading teams, but I saw him in leading people into things that were better in their lives. And I think that's where I got kind of the initial bug of where I ended up.
So who's been the hero for you? Who's been an ultimate inspiration in your career path?
Um, Well, my dad, of course, was one throughout, a trusted person I always listened to. He passed away a few years ago. Miss not being able to talk to him. I had a few different people, that came up. Some I would say they taught me the way not to do it, and they were very open. Even some of them about, I wish it wasn't this way. I wasn't this way, but it's the only way I know how to do it. There was a Japanese gentleman when I worked for Marubeni Toshu, a Japanese trading company, Mr. Kamaki, and he kind of took me under his wing about how to talk to people, how to deal with people, how to lead meetings, but then also still had how to have a life. And I found that was very interesting from someone who worked for a Japanese company that was moved all over the world, that many times may have been away from family, but his goal was not to be the Japanese 20-hour workday person who never spent time with family and didn't know his kids. So I think him kind of pushing towards overcoming a cultural way of doing business also helped me a lot see how some of the little things that we say impact people so much.
So if you could hang out with a CEO or a business leader that you admire the way that they run business and learn from them and just see how it operates, someone that you're fascinated by, who would that be?
A person that I met when I was in high school, and fortunately he's passed away now, but his name was Sam Moore. He was the head of Thomas Nelson Bible Publishers. I went to high school with his daughter, was able to meet him a few times. Definitely, again, one of those self-made people that came up. But I saw the effect again that he had on people that were there and the way that he grew people. And so today, one of those names that we look at, Michael Hyatt, was who he selected to take his place at Thomas Nelson as he was exiting. So I got to kind of see that transition from the outside. And Michael Hyatt is definitely one of those people that I read everything that he has that I see. I've met John Maxwell and some others, but Sam was the type of guy that the person that he picked and how he was going to mentor that person was going to be very specific and very definite. And so just knowing that Michael was the guy that he picked to take over this organization that was uh, as much a family to him as anybody else that was in his family, kind of made me respect Michael, quite a bit. So he's another person I would say that exited the corporate life and kind of built what is his life experience, and he's talked about it too that he's made some changes recently. His daughter's kind of taken over his company. He serves a different role. I think you see in that what it means to be a leader to just naturally mentor and help other people achieve their goals.
So, obviously what you're doing is a people-driven business and you're changing companies, but that's changing lives as well. What was the first client that you had that you saw the sparkle in their eyes? You saw the change and you were like, this is the way my life should be. I should be helping people.
Yeah, so before I even made it to working with Servpro or spent a lot of time working with their franchisees, I was really focused, on that. I wanted to do something even bigger and better. And so I talked with a few companies that I was wanting to go to work for. They were like, really, you've done a lot of stuff, but you've done it for yourself. And what I was going to be working with was kind of in that consulting advisory type role. And they're like, you really need some experience in this. And so a friend of mine kind of introduced me to this position. And I think where I figured out where I got the dopamine hit from getting from from working with people. I mean, it's like a drug to me to see what you were just talking about. Those lights turn on and things go. I go to a gentleman out in California. When I get there before he is, and there is a sign on his door from the sheriff letting him know that he has a certain amount of time to pay a certain amount of money, or they are padlocking his doors from the state. And so I was sent there primarily because they knew there was an issue in this area amongst a bunch of different business owners. So they're like, here's your group of people, all underperforming, businesses are failing, things are happening. I get to talking with him, and it's bad enough where he has a date, he's got to come up with a certain amount of money or he's going to jail.
Wow.
I mean, California is serious when it comes to unpaid taxes, when it comes to some of those things and everything. And so he's got this point, and we start talking. And so, what's the first thing you do is you start looking at assets. What can we sell? What we can do? He doesn't own a home. He rents. His all of his cars. He's upside down in those. He's upside down in a bicycle. Of all things that we're looking at, a road race, $15,000 bicycle that he's bought. He's living the dream of the business owner, but he is upside down in everything. And so we just start solving problems. And I think what happened was, 30 days later, he's not going to jail. He's still in debt, but he sees the light, and he begins to make this giant change. And now, we're still friends. We talk. I don't work in his business anymore, but um, you know, all the things that he was dreaming of doing, I want to have a family. I'd like to get married someday. I'd love to have kids. And he couldn't do any of that because of all the stress and everything that was happening. And then I go to see him one day, and he's like, I've met somebody, and I really think she's it. We started talking, and it's like, she's an accountant. And the first thing I said was, has she seen your books? And he's like, no. I'm like, I would probably wait about wait about that a little while. And so, and then they get married, they have a kid, he buys a house, he expands his business. And so you go from, where I'm losing everything, everything's falling apart in my life. You know, personally, I can't even have a girlfriend, to now he's reached that point of everything that he has. And, we go out to dinner with each other. We have a great time. Life is totally different, a couple of years later from what he walked into. And that is a story and an event. And I think why we're connected, really a personal friend, type of thing is there are so many people in that situation
Yeah.
and they don't have anybody that they can trust, that they will turn to, that they could even say, "Hey, I can't even really have a girlfriend because of what's going on in my business," because they're putting forward this face of something that's not really them in the exact same way that I was. And
Yeah.
since I walked through it, I can see that we can have these conversations and just be honest with ourselves and then look at it from a perspective of not failure as much as is here's where I am,
Yeah.
here's where I want to go. What can I do to get there?
Yeah. So what gets you up every day? What gets you up to do this work that you do? Because you're not just going to a job, you're giving a lot of yourself to help people get to a better place, but you also have to evolve as a human being and a professional. What is that collective gas in your tank every day?
Um, Family. I mean, myself, one of the reasons why I left um, corporate environment a little over a year ago, I started doing this myself again and working with people and speaking and trying to have more of an impact was really too that I wanted to have more control of my time. I spent a lot of time early in my son's life traveling. 7, 8 months out of the year, I was on the road, going to conferences, speaking at conferences, working with franchisees, with businesses, with companies, and it was taking a toll on my personal life, and I began to see myself like I'm in a different way, getting back into the same rut I was in before,
Yeah.
and I really wasn't, I think, having the impact that I wanted to have with the people that I wanted to have it with. And so really what gets me up now is the fact that I can take my son to school, every single morning. There were times I missed those school events, those school assemblies, they're doing some little song and dance routine or, he gets an award at school and I can't go because, I'm in North Carolina or I'm in Washington State somewhere and there's no way I can fly back for just that one day and turn around and go back. And so, now I get to see those things. So every morning when I get to drop him off at school, or, like this afternoon, my wife and I will go together on Friday and pick him up from school together. Those are things that mean so much to me now that I didn't really recognize, 10, 12 years ago.
So beyond your family, of everything that you've done and accomplished and evolved into at this point, what are you the proudest of?
Um, the relationships I built
Yeah.
because there are some conversations I've had with people. Matter of fact, I was in a international federation of coaches meeting yesterday, and one of the topics was about having difficult conversations. You know, I've had to have some difficult conversations with people who did not want to look in the mirror, and being able to have those in such a way that they know you do it from a caring standpoint, and then you can get through that conversation. Somebody can get upset. Sometimes, I'm the message bearer. Again, it's their business. It's their ultimate decision. But, I want you to decide this is the way you want things to be. It not happen by accident, because a lot of times it's not making those decisions, but let's decide this the way you want to be. Having those conversations and then getting through the other side and us still being able to maintain a relationship that works. Um, that's some of what I'm most proud of. I struggled for years. Recently, I wrote a book, kind of taking some of my experience and some of the tools and concepts that I did, and that too I'm proud of because it took me years to accomplish it. And I think there's a lot to be said. Sisyphus pushing the stone up the mountain. That's the way I felt. Like I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and then suddenly it's like, you know what? I've made a mistake. This isn't right. This isn't even how I think. Let's start over. And so finally accomplishing that, which my wife really helped push me. Like you need to do this. You need to get this done. And my dad had encouraged me a lot to try and put this on paper. And how can I have a lasting effect? And I think part of it too is my son has that as well. My things, my grandfather was a pastor and was a mentor of many pastors around his area of the country. He was a circuit preacher, walked from state to state, pastoring different churches, and none of his writings, none of what he said, none of what he taught exists. It exists in the people that he taught. Hundreds of other preachers and ministers that came and spent time with him, walking down the road, learning from what he had. And I don't have that because he died before I was born, never able to meet him. There's one video of him walking around outside that somebody had on a 8 millimeter camera. And that's my full extent of somebody that had a wide impact on a lot of people's lives. And I wasn't able to receive that. So I think that's one of the things I'm proud of too, is that I've left something behind that I think is at least give my kids and grandkids a view into what happened to me and what it caused me to do different.
So at the end of the day, Chris, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, all of the readers of your book, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, that's a really good question because trying to internalize that, even to myself, um, I am a people pleaser by nature, but not to the extent that I will do it to the point of hurting someone else or myself, which I think is a change. I think that most people would view me as a helper. I do get some of those calls late at night about, hey, I'm stuck on the side of the road. Can you come and get me? And if somebody reaches out and asks me for that, I'm gonna go do it. So, in myself, I think I would say I'm a helper, and I try to my best to be a trusted advisor, give you what I would do in your situation. And if I have no idea, I'll tell you that, but hopefully I know somebody that does, and I'll get you in contact with that person and I'll help you get help because I'm not going to leave you stranded.
So if anyone out there wants to hire you, grab your book, reach out, learn more about you, any of the good business, where can they go?
They can go to chrismoorelive.com, pretty much on all social media at chrismoorelive as well. But I would love to talk with them, love to help them, even if I can't, maybe push them in the right direction.
I love it. What a self-actualized conversation and what you're doing. I love it. It just emanates from you. So thank you. This has been a joy, Chris. I appreciate it.
Yes, for me too, Joe. I appreciate it.
You bet. Have a great weekend.